What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So the other day I made a video talking about the best grind spots for silver. Now this one is going to be part 2, I guess, and we're going to be talking about the best spots to grind for XP. Now I noticed that Pearl Abyss updated a few things, and what we're going to be doing, instead of going down by order, we are going to look at the ones that is picked by Pearl Abyss themselves and what I think new players will actually do. So you see this Combat XP tag. We're going to look at all the ones that are, selected by themselves and see what it's all about. And also, if there's anything missing from this list, I will personally tell you guys my experience with it as well, and maybe you guys can share your data. But for Combat XP, I'm going to assume most of these are, roughly, better than average. But anyway, so from beginning to the end, whether you're a beginner or new, a veteran player returning, let's see what this recommends. Now, let's see. We sort this. Yeah, let me see. We're sorting it by AP level. And then, I guess, beginners at the top going down to end game. I think that's what it's showing. Okay, with that said, if you are a seasonal character, I've always recommended people going straight to Polly's Forest, simply because that is just faster XP. I believe in the Calpheon Ball that they just talked about, they're gonna streamline seasons more easily now, and so just doing questing, all the way up to Medaya basically gets you to level 60, and so you don't even really need to grind anymore. I don't know how that's going to work. We'll figure that out literally tomorrow when the patch hits, when everyone else gets to try it. I think everyone's seasonal characters gets force graduated, Savior comes out, and so that means everyone will basically get to experience it tomorrow. So with that said, these first 4, they were pretty much outdated, and I remember grinding these spots many years ago, like 5-6 years ago, but nowadays in 2025 2026 it's just kind of outdated. And so these 2 were good for getting level 56 to 58, all of these first 4, but then nowadays I think most people just go to Polys. You can get from 50 to 60 just straight up. And there's actually more rewards for doing it, so I'd recommend that one. And then Kadri is not too bad for newer players, and you're realistically just going there because early on, if you want the all damage reduction or evasion, these are a good choice for artifacts early on. XP is pretty decent. Crescent Shrine is out of the way, and especially if you're an actual new player, exploring the desert and not having, the purified water and all that stuff is probably going to be annoying, so I'd probably just recommend avoiding that one. It's not that great, and plus, you probably don't have CC resist crystals as a newer player, so I just ignore that one. Kadri's is more manageable because, even though it's a stun stiffness, chances are you can maneuver around more easily just by going around to different areas. So Gahaz was actually a good one back in the day, and there was actually a big rotation that, is a huge loop, and there's 4 different rotations. Back before tower spots were a thing, was actually a nice change of pace from what it is nowadays. I wish more grind spots would be just more open-ended instead of tower spots. It felt a lot more rewarding when your class can clear faster than others. So Gahaz, it's not so bad anymore. If you want scrolls written in languages for Memfrags and then a bunch of other stuff, Capris and sealed black magic crystals, pretty decent. Once again, all these spots for early game players, I'd still recommend Polys over all of it, but Gahaz is also solid for XP. Trader's Graveyard. I believe it's what is it, near Hex, I believe. I Personally, haven't grinded there in a while. There's no need for me to do that, but I've heard a lot of people say that is actually pretty solid. And Trader's Graveyard, I actually would recommend Soldier's Cemetery, which is down here, because that one also, if you're a new player, is right next to basically Heidel. And so, like, if you don't have a lot of weight or inventory slots, there's an NPC like right down here by the node that actually buys and sells your trash loot, so you don't have to go back to town. But even if you did, it's really close by. Whereas a lot of other spots are just out in the middle of nowhere, and you don't have that option. So early on, Soldier Cemetery is actually pretty good. Trader's Graveyard is kind of on the opposite side, but also solid. All right, so let's see. What else does this game recommend? Wargon Nest, have not been there. Heard that got buffed, a couple years ago, but they probably need to take out that party of 3. Not even relevant anymore. Proddy Cave. This one is actually good, but the problem with this spot is actually getting there. So to show you where it is, it's kind of out in the ocean right here. So yeah, that's the problem. The reason why you're grinding here is because you're most likely a new player, but getting there is probably the hard part. So it's one of those things where if you can get there, if you have a sailboat or something, probably fine, but getting there is the annoying part for someone who doesn't have it. Okay, going down into Centaurs. We talked about this with the other video for best spots of silver. This spot is pretty decent. Well, it's probably a mix nowadays, so it's a decent one with this kind of gear level. So I believe that's like 140. Let me check. 180. You're still in season. Yeah, if you're grinding here, solid XP. The amount of silver is good as well, but you have to be using Agris there. And yeah, overall, it's not the best anymore, but it's still solid. Mirrormock Ruins. You guys remember this one back in the day before Gyphon was really a thing? People would, go there, get power leveled to 61, 62 back in the day. Yeah, so Mirrormock Ruins is kind of the early game spot where people get boosted, and there's a lot of different ways to do this spot. Nowadays, I think most people can solo it relatively easily, but there's, how when you're in a group, they have those little Wi-Fi bars. There can be 3 different spots where people are grinding, and then one person, think of a triangle, and you standing in the center of that triangle, and then you're getting power leveled really fast. But even if someone is just doing one rotation and you're just standing by the tree, it's still pretty solid. So this is the beginner power level spot where, the person grinding doesn't really need that much AP either. So I would consider this top 5, but it's the early game one. This is going to be irrelevant in a couple of months because they're changing Sakraya Upper to a higher end spot, and they talked about that in the Calpheon Ball. Same with Upper Gyphon. I believe they're going to be changing that one to a Dekia spot. I'm not really sure on the details of it, but they talked about that, and so might be irrelevant in the future as well. Mirror Wax Labyrinth. This one is a spot that I guarantee you 99% of people forgot about or don't even really know exists. Now this one is actually a unique spot. We should probably do a video of that again one day. But basically, you go into the labyrinth, right? Think of a pizza with 5 slices, and you go into one of them, and then 4 people, up to 4 other people go into the other room. So everyone has their own instanced room, right? And basically, you kill waves of enemies for about 15 minutes. And then everyone cycles rooms, think of everyone going clockwise, right, into the next room. Now, after about an hour, it says something oh, the boss is ready. And then everyone goes to the center and it's a group fight. I have a video of it. You can basically solo it these days. And one person can just go cycling around until the boss spawns. But yeah, I thought the mechanic of this spot was very unique. The XP early on from like 61, 62 is fine, but it used to be worth more back in the day when, you know, Flame of Frost were more common. And you would need embers for your Labreska helmet, so these were worth more. You turn these crystals into other rewards. Forgotten Witches tokens are... I don't even think these are in the game anymore. So, like, they removed Arethia's Limbo. However, the iridescent lightstones, they drop at a very high rate here in the Labyrinth. So this one is good for silver. XP, you know, it's above average compared to everything else, but not the highest. So you might want to try this one out. This one is kind of a mix between silver and XP, whereas some spots are just good XP. All right, Gyphon Underground. This is the #1 spot for XP in the game for people who are level 61 to like 60, 65, 66. You can get to 66 here. However, you know, nowadays, if you are like level 65, chances are you already have gear and you could go to other spots. But for people who are looking to power level themselves to like 61, 62 very fast, Underground Gyphon is the way to go. And yeah, so that's good. All right, so the new ones they're adding compared to the last time we made this video is all the Edania spots. Now, I've seen a lot of people get power leveled at Ethereum Castle. This is kind of sketch because, like, one, the person who is power leveling you needs to be super geared. But also, at the same time, you know, if you are trying to solo level for all of this one, I think Ethereum Castle has enough density that, you know, the XP is pretty solid, going from like 60, I'd probably say 63 to 66 is decent. Nymphomare, I'm not really too sure about this one, actually. Like, I haven't grinded enough to know about XP here, but if the game recommends it, you guys can let me know. Orbita is actually very good XP. Like, I was level 66 when this was, like, you know, new, and I've seen all the phases of buffs and nerfs to this spot, and I was actually getting pretty decent XP at 66 at Orbita. Keep in mind, this spot I would consider is probably the most dangerous spot of all the Edania spots, including Zephyros and Tenebrum, just because one of the mechanics of this spot is, like, there are two phases, a light and dark phase when you kill the towers, right? And like the dark phase, you get a negative DP, like debuff, I guess. Like you do more damage, but you take more damage. And then like when all the enemies spawn, they could burst you down, and even if you are significantly overgeared, this spot like can 100 to 0 you. So it is kind of sketchy, but Orbita is actually very good XP. So whether you're going there at like level 62 all the way to 66, I would say it's pretty good. And Tenebrum, I'm actually not too sure about this spot. Even though I have about like maybe 50 hours, I haven't really been tracking XP. It felt worse than Orbita, but admittedly I'm doing this at 66, and what I was going for is Trash Loot and Silver. I haven't been really looking at this one. So yeah, and Zephyros, I still do grind here. It's about 0.01 or 2 an hour at 66, and this is assuming there's no event buff going on. Right now, it's probably 0.05 or 4 an hour, which doesn't really sound good either. But if you are under level 66, you get about like 1% an hour, which I think is very solid. So for everyone who is grinding there, let's say with a tag, and like let's say your tag is between 61 to 65, you're getting a couple % an hour, and then while you're grinding on your main. So yeah, I would say Edania spots overall are probably pretty good, but that requires you to actually have the gear. And then Zephyros obviously is the highest end spot in the game. So like, I feel like if you're grinding here, XP should not be a real concern for you, because like, well, you already have like 385 plus AP grinding here. And so it's kind of like irrelevant. You can already grind everywhere else. So I thought it was a little interesting that they put the combat XP tag on Edania spots. I understand Ethereum Castle just because like that one would be the entry level. But if I were going for XP in the other ones, it would probably be Orbita or Zephyros, because those are, you know, actually pretty solid in my opinion. And I actually, the way I tracked XP was through my tag as well. So like, you know how when you grind, you could just take the XP from your tag character. And so that's how I kind of track that one as well. So a couple percent. I would say if you were doing above like 17k trash an hour at Zephyros, it's better than Tenebrom. Otherwise, if you're like, if let's say you aren't meeting 2010 here, but you are above 1920 at Tenebrom, Tenebrom is probably slightly better. But if you are obviously overcapped here, then it is better. So I think for most people, Orbita, Ethereum Castle are pretty much the entry level XP spots here. And then if you are super geared, try to do Zephyros, because that one is probably more. But yeah, I would say for most people, the AP requirement here is 380 compared to like 390 and up. So Ethereum good. I don't know about Nymphomare, admittedly. Orbita good. Tenebrom is, I don't really know about that one as well. Zephyros also good. So yeah, with that said, that is what the game recommended in terms of like if you were to hit the combat XP tag, and this is what they would recommend. I think there are a few more that they were, so let me show you on the map. Where was this? It is the one that I would recommend for early game players, like let's say you're leveling up on seasons for the first time, is, let's see, where is the spot? It's Marnie's Lab early on. And I personally don't like it, but it's a lot of XP early on for new players. What is it? Marie Cave is pretty decent. And one for like early game players is Mascal Forest over here. So like, let's say you're just leveling up as a new player. I would recommend this one if you don't have a lot of gear compared to the others. Where is that Marnie's Lab actually? I don't remember. It's somewhere down here. So yeah, Marnie's Lab is right here. That one is a solid spot for leveling up. And then also early on is Lake Kaya for the Catfishman camp, getting to level 51. I would recommend that one as well. And honestly, a lot of spots in Kama Sylvia are pretty decent. They just don't recommend it, but I'm also going off of gear score. So like if you're a new player and all you have is non-max Tuvala gear, obviously you are probably going to try some other stuff. So yeah, Kama Sylvia is a good region for new players. And some Calpheon spots, which I don't know, hit or miss. And then newer players, what I'd recommend, I'll do this on seasons tomorrow when Savior comes out, and I'll be showing you how to get to level 61 really quickly. So here's what I would do. Quick TLDR. Let's say you're starting a new season character. You start at Western Guard Camp, right? Do the quests, or like the main story quests up to like 15, 16 around here. And then, you know, you're good to go. After that, go to Castle Ruins till like mid-20. And then after that, Bloody Monastery until like mid-30s or 40s if you just like the spot. And then from 40s, you can go to Marnie's Lab or down to Catfishman Camp till 50s, or you can go to Mascal Forest if you feel like you just want a safer spot and you don't have like all the infinite potions and everything, or you don't have your adventure journals on, you could just go there. But other than that, Marnie's Lab down to Catfishman Camp at Lake Kaya to 50s, and then from 50s, if you're a new player, Soldier's Cemetery till 60 or 56, and then same with Polly's Forest down from here from 50 to 60 if you wanted to. But that also requires you to have all of this unlocked. So like as a newer player, you probably don't have Kama Sylvia unlocked already, but you have Hydael and Serendia unlocked, so this one's a good spot. But if you're making your season character again and not power leveling through this and doing it all solo, down here at Poly's Force is also pretty good. And then from 60 and up, it's really just, you know, down here, or I would realistically say from 61, you should probably have max season gear, like Pen, Tuvala, and everything. And then after that, it really just is like you're around 250 AP. Either go, yeah, around 250 AP is when you kind of graduate seasons, and then you're just looking at other spots. And so, you know, after realistically 62, you want to start grinding more for silver than XP, just because you get more gear, try the higher end grind spots. And so that's where the other video leads into. So with that said, I'll leave a link to the video that I made the other day. The best spots are silver, and this one is for XP. So hopefully that was very helpful to all of you guys. If you have any questions, happy to point you guys in the right direction. You can also join the Discord and everything. But with that said, that's all from me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We got a bunch of videos for the rest of December coming out, and expect, you know, Savior is new. Obviously, we're going to be doing stuff with that and, you know, figuring that out together. So that's it. So much for this one, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.